So absolutely, I think that when LTE comes out, there's going to be a big uptake, and these projects are not consumer projects; they're business and government projects. Coming to Kim's point about becoming a nation of content creators as opposed to content consumers, I'd like to demystify that a little bit, because people think content creators, what are they? They go into this room and they make things with computers, maybe graphics and so on. It's just everyday life. So the applications that I'm talking about is basically, I can't say what they are because of confidentiality, but it's basically just what we do today, but when you incorporate video, then that's the need, right? So I'll just go a little further on content creation and say that if you think of the normal day-to-day activities in any industry, whether it's in healthcare, you have doctors doing x-rays and poor consumers or patients running around from one hospital to another with an x-ray. That's what content creation is. The doctor or the x-ray guy, the radiologist, he's a content creator. And so forth. It's pervasive across all industries, and across all industries you have suppliers, distributors, and consumers. And in every level, there are content creators and content consumers. And as I said before, it's not about some mystical art that someone has. It's just about digitizing human life, and that's what's happening.
Thanks, Lokan.
Didn't answer your question on the e-commerce?
Yeah, you want to do that now? Yeah.
That'll take it.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to that.
One of the issues about Trinidad and Tobago, which sometimes worry me, has to do with the fact that when you speak to individual ministries or individual state agencies or the private sector, individual companies, they are working very hard. They are doing things. Work is taking place, people are getting paid, but for some reason, as a small country, we are unable to bring it all together at the time that we need it. So we are working hard in our individual areas, whatever we're doing, but somehow the coordination of the efforts, they are not adding up or adding up to as much as they can add up to. I want to ask Selvon to speak to that issue a bit for us.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ramson. It goes back to, if I can take a step back too as well, and look at what has been happening in ICT over the last 5-6 years or so. We've had a plan called Fast Forward, and a lot of work has been done with Fast Forward, a lot of work behind the scenes. We have a new plan called Smart ET, good, and a lot of work has been done again. The thing about it is that what the average citizen is not seeing as a result of these plans, right? But you're right, we're all working very hard. And what are we working hard doing? I'm sure the taxpayer is going to be asking, what are you spending our money doing, right? Well, we've been spending your money putting infrastructure in place. As Dr. Carrillo quite rightly pointed out, we are ready. But even Dr. Carrillo himself would not understand and appreciate the amount of work that is taking place in the background, right? So we have, for example, GovNet. GovNet is up and running. GovNet is the government's backbone that interconnects close to 500 or so nodes and ministries or locations, nodes. And that is increasing. We are increasing GovNet's infrastructure as we speak. We are increasing its capabilities. We are increasing the service offerings, good? Not only in terms of GovNet, but in terms of our hosting capabilities. Good? Part of the new GovNet is going to focus on enhanced capabilities at hosting, right? But it goes even beyond that. I spoke earlier on about TT Connect and bringing services to the citizens, right? Reaching out to them. Before we can actually reach out to the citizens, we have to do things in the background. we are seeing, for example, that we made a significant drop in 2012 from 60 to 72, right? We moved from efficiency-driven to innovation. That speaks to a lot, right? Mexico did the same thing when they moved from efficiency to innovation. They dropped 16 points, right? But because of the fact that we have not changed much, we've increased just 1, it says that we are doing something right. Good. And what we are doing is treating with the infrastructure to make sure that we not only stay where we are, but we are ready to move forward.
Absolutely.
Right? And in moving forward, we are continuing to put mechanisms and means in place. For example, one of the things that's going to come very soon to us is on tender notices online, where all government agencies can post notices online. The next phase to that is what? Is making the awards available, right? So the things are happening, and the results will come, but we'll move to that point. And as we go, we speak, for example, of innovation. I want to make the beeline back to innovation, because I really think it's important. We have the readiness, we are ready, but we're not doing enough. Good. What little we can do is to try to get people to see and understand things differently. And again, I go back to Dr. Trillo's last slide, the one where he focused on CEOs, because I think it's very important. Here's it, you're talking about CEOs and their readiness, right, and their understanding of ICT. Lorcan made a very good point just now, and it comes back to the same thing. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink, right? But in the private sector, as well as the public sector, we have to lead by example. We, the CEOs, need to understand ICT and its importance. And we have to understand that we need to use the available technologies to transform our businesses and our lives. And by so doing, you will impact the consumers and the citizens. So we are looking at things like a center of excellence, for example. Nihurst is looking at Science City. These are things that will actually reach out to the community and the public to show, here are technologies that are implemented. Here are technologies that we can use to make your life better. Part of the problem, and I like the new MIS program that was pointed out, Ms. Maraj and I were focusing on some of the areas. Business intelligence, right? Key, very key. Again, go outside there and ask many CEOs of companies, what is business intelligence? What is data? How can this improve your business? What is CRM? Do you know your customer data? And they don't. But you know what? There are people who do. The Lorcans, the Selvans, etc. There are a lot of people who do know about business intelligence and about how you can use these technologies to improve your business. It is part of our strategic plan and our direction to incorporate some of these things and start building them out.
Just before, I want to come back. There's this presumption that we talk about Trinidad and Tobago doing so well, and in some respects we are, and in some of the international measurements. But we hear from Professor Carrillo that many of our CEOs are very vague or dense in respect of technology. First, Lorcan, do you, again, a private sector view, do you share that view? And yeah, let's leave it at that. Do you share that view?
Pretty much. I think it comes back to competitiveness. I think that, okay, if we talk about innovation, innovation is change of, most times innovation is disruptive, and it's a change in behavior. It brings on a change in behavior, whether an organization or person. And humans just naturally are opposed to change. So if everything is working, if nothing's broken, don't fix it. That's what happens when you're not faced with competition, or when everyone is just chugging along, not threatening or disrupting. So to answer your question, I would say it's a mixed bag. I would say that there are some individuals who embrace it as CEOs. There are some who it's forced upon them because of competition, and they're using it quite effectively. But generally speaking, I would say it's beginning to change. I have to say that in the last 3 to 6 months, I have seen a elevated interest in technologies like Salva mentioned. The key technologies today are cloud, mobile, social, big data.
But look, and if I say as a CEO, and we're in a business school, and I'm sure we have a lot of business students here, and I'm glad to hear you say it is changing because it seems some of you are coming out and going to companies, opening your companies and so on. But what if I say as a CEO, well, listen, I don't have to learn all these CRM and DSM and whatever. I employ some bright graduates from methodological to do it for me. I am the one who take the risk. I'm the entrepreneur. I put my money, as it were. I bet on good people. What would you say to that?
You know, I would encourage them to take it as far as they're comfortable with. But there's truth in that. I mean, if you're successful and you have people who can read the CRM reports and interpret it for you, at the very least, I would encourage them to use, and I have actually, because a lot of my friends are actually older men who are not CEOs, chairmen. And I take the time to show them, and most of them are taking up at least mobile email. BlackBerry. Okay. That's
but maybe
powerful. I mean,
maybe there is something there. Maybe there is something there for the chamber. Trying to be good chamber, and I saw Ronald Hines around. I don't know if he's still here. Oh yes, he's still here. That maybe to interest some of our CEOs to become more technology savvy and so on.
Yes.
Lisa,
can I
you want to?
I wanted to say a couple things before Kim, who's chomping at the bits.
Yes, I am.
On the infrastructure piece, we're not there as yet. And I want to address two issues on the infrastructure piece. So yes, on mobile data broadband, we're well on our way in terms of infrastructure. What we identified when we were developing the National ICT Plan was the clear gap on the fixed side of a national infrastructure for fixed broadband. And also as a country, what are some of the goals that we want nationally? So when Kim would recall, when we started to fine-tune the plan, we realized different people had different measures for iGov had something, the World Bank had other measures, TAT had something else, and said, no, we have to have national measures and objectives for mobile broadband rollout, for fixed broadband rollout, for penetration, for access, and so forth. So we developed those. So for example, on the fixed side, we are saying under the National ICT Plan, we must have 77% of households having not access, but using at least 10 megabit capacity in each household, 77% by the end of the plan period, 2018. So when we did an analysis of the gaps that currently exist, and people in the technology sector would realize once you're talking about speeds at that level, you're talking about a fairly ubiquitous fiber rollout in the country. And there's a gap. I know the existing providers are doing some incremental work, and that is why one of the big projects we identified for the World Bank as part of their advisory services is to come up with a recommendation and suggestions for PPP arrangement to build out that infrastructure that would give us those speeds. So on the fixed side, we're not there as yet. We're getting there. And we know where we want to go, and World Bank will help us, hopefully tell us how to get there. And hopefully it will be a PPP type of arrangement, as opposed to expecting the government to do it alone. So other countries have, as you know, developed different models. Singapore built out themselves, South Korea as well, and then they employed a wholesale access network kind of approach to selling capacity to operators. That's on the one side. I spoke already about what the mobile operators are doing and what LTE capability is going to bring to the society. The third piece is what you mentioned, at least one aspect of it, which is the government backbone. And I think government's efforts in terms of backbone and cell phone schools.
No, yes, I
The
forgot
school
about
project.
schools.
So
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised and a little shocked to sit in I think an interministerial committee meeting and to hear them talking about 25 megabit capacity to all primary, secondary schools. And I was like, what? Do you know that means fiber? And I got all excited because I'm like, do you realize that means fiber rollout? And so I know that project is, you probably have a little more details as to the status of it. But so I think there's a clear recognition on the government side that its own infrastructure requirements have to be supplemented and developed. There's a recognition of what they need to do on the enabling side for the private sector to build an infrastructure on the mobile broadband side. And also there's a recognition that on the fixed side, they need to supplement through a PPP type arrangement what the existing operators are doing.
Okay, so there is a recognition in the government among stakeholders as to the things that we need to do
Yes.
and that we need to do them fast.
Yes.
The question I want to ask Kim, in addition to what she wants to answer,
It might be the same thing.
is what, and if you share like me a sense that we continue to work in vacuums for one reason or the other, we do not seem to want to coordinate our actions. We guard territories, we guard turfs, we seem to hold close to our chests particular information that the other ministry, department, well, not to mention the private sector, needs to do things. Is that a real issue? And how are we going to deal with it?
I like the second question. I'll go back to the point that I was trying to make earlier, and you said it, Dr. Ramkasoon. If I have the money, why don't I hire some intelligent, bright people to put in a CRM, to interpret the CRM? The question is, though, the cost. A lot of the businesses, as Logan can tell you, in Trinidad and Tobago are small and medium enterprises. As I've done work in relation to Smart TT, that national ICT plan, because of the breadth of the plan, I'm actually interacting with stakeholders who engage these persons. And yes, technology is becoming cheaper. Yes, now with cloud, you can outsource certain things. But for a small business, for a medium-sized business, to ask them to spend close to $1 million TT to put in a CRM is actually prohibitive. So that is a challenge, given the fact that we have so many small and medium enterprises who, for them, $1 million outlay, where they can't see clear returns in the short term, may not seem feasible, even though we in the field understand the value of it. And I think that is something we are still grappling with as a society, trying to make these major leaps in the areas of ICT.
So what that does for me is to encourage us to ask questions. When things appear obvious to technicians, to IT people, to economists, to lawyers, whatever, and very often as professionals we tend to feel, well, there's an easy solution for it. But I think it is also important to ask, in finding that solution, why is it not happening? What is preventing the businessman, the consumer, the man in Toko from using the technology? There must be something. You say it is easy to do, but there's something that is preventing it from happening. And in all our jobs, wherever we are, we need to drill down and find what really is the solution to the particular problem, lest we just assume what we need to do is what our discipline tells us. And we could, in fact, be doing that. And I find that happens all the time. We keep providing particular services. Nobody is taking it up. But we are not asking, but why? It seems easier. People are still coming into Port of Spain to do certain things which they can do at home. Well, why? Why are they still coming? At some point, you have to stop providing the service and get behind what it is you're doing. I guess in the private sector, you would have to do it quicker because you have to be paid for the services you provide. In the case of the public sector, I think you're more challenged because it might be part of your program to supply X, Y, or Z, and you just keep doing that and doing it the same way without asking, is anybody buying it? Is anybody making use of it? And we talk about measurement and so on.
But I thought I already answered that question. Why?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a conversation we need to elaborate on and to keep raising. Let me ask this one. There are a number of questions here. We can't answer all, let me say, but I will select a couple of them and simply throw them out. This one clearly is for Lokan. Is the private sector willing to invest in the technology infrastructure needed in the region? And I think we kind of talk about that answer. Is it needed? Am I able to provide my service without that? And do I have the size of business, which is another dimension that would incur that cost to do that? There are other dimensions to business in the Caribbean and the psychology of business people, but that will take us very far and wide. I like this one, and maybe in terms of time, how much more time do we have? Can anybody tell me?
Probably gone past.
15 minutes?
15.
5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes. Let me say those who did not get their questions answered, you can pigeonhole each one of the panelists, not the moderator, and you'll get your questions answered after. But let's take the 5 minutes to really, in a sense, go back to the reason we came here, which is to be part of the revelation of the survey's results, the readiness survey. And we would take one of the questions, and I would ask each panelist, very briefly, 1 minute each, what can we do to significantly improve our ranking? In fact, let me change that. We are now, what is our rank? In 71.
Out of 148
What
countries.
What must we do over the next 5 years? I'm changing up your question, whoever you are, a bit. What must we do over the next 5 years? What is the most important thing we must do over the next 5 years to take our ranking into the first 10?
Okay,
Let's start with Loka.
Yeah, I'll answer 2 things.
1 minute.
Yeah, 2 things, not one, 2 things. First of all, is addressing what I said, which is get out there and compete. I think we're in a very complacent mood. Most consumers, businesses, and governments in a complacent mood, and we need to get out of that. Secondly, from a technology point of view, I would say that we should embrace wholeheartedly cloud, big data, social networking, and mobile across all industries. Government, all RFPs should call for those 4 technologies to be applied to the request. Businesses should do the same, and consumers should just start using it.
Kim?
Okay, so we spoke earlier about the National ICT Strategy / Plan Smart TT. And this is a very comprehensive strategy. For us to get where we want to go, we actually have to implement it and implement it well. Like I talked earlier about action, we need to translate the programs in the strategy, which was done through a very consultative, long process, and actually implement them. Because I think they have tried to address all of these indicators with some concrete programs and projects.
Thanks. Salvan?
Okay. I think I've been hammering the point in several different ways, but I'll say the same point again. I'll say it in four ways. We need to connect through broadband connectivity. We need to educate, because I feel there are a lot of our education strategies in terms of information dissemination, what technologies are right, bias through Science City, Center of Excellence, or whatever other means, or programs that even Smart TT speaks to. We need to encourage citizens through ease of access to services, for example, TT Connect services, and we need to empower them. So all of these things are captured in some means or the other within the Smart TT plan, but at the end of the day, I say connect, educate, encourage, and empower.
Connect, educate,
encourage,
and empower. So you take away those four words. Lisa?
Two things, infrastructure piece, which I've spoken about extensively before. One of the biggest disappointments to me in the rankings is in the what is called the political and regulatory environment, and there are two aspects of that that I really want us to work on. One of which Ms. Mirage mentioned in her thing, which is the slew of ICT enabling legislation, the proclamation of the Data Protection Act, the Electronic Transactions Act, the Exchequer and Audit Act, the Cybercrime Bill, the amendments to the Telecoms Act. However, as I will remind Mr. Hines, doing a presentation to the e-business roundtable is not as easy as it seems. If you look at data protection and electronic transactions, there are a lot of policies underpinning both pieces of legislation which still need to be developed, and we're not quite there yet, but we recognize, we understand what we need to do. I mean, can you believe that we are ranked 115 out of 148? The other aspect of it is the whole judicial system, and in terms of the time to enforce a contract, that was one of our other very extraordinarily low rankings, 143 out of 148 countries.
Yes.
We need to, a takeaway is looking at the efficiency of the judicial system, including thinking very strongly about the development of a specialized commercial court, like they have the Chancery Division in England. I gave the wonderful example yesterday where we were involved in a litigation in London, which was, proceedings were filed in 2007. A 77-day trial was held in London in 2009. The matter was completed. First instance in 2009. The appeal was disposed of by 2010 in a space of 3 years. If we had to replicate those proceedings in Trinidad and Tobago, it would probably take about 20 years, and you'd have to bring out about 4 Chief Justices out of retirement.
So Lisa, I mean, I know there's much more that can be said, but I want to leave the audience with that particular. We are in a business school.
Yes.
We linking here.
So it's the enabling environment.
The enabling environment,
yes.
And we are saying that there's need for a commercial court.
Yes.
That if business relating to economic development, faster growth in GDP, that if business is related to that, and we know very well yes. that it is critical to that, then there is a critical dimension to business, which is commercial law,
yes.
a commercial court, the rate at which business decisions are made, directly linked to assistance in ICT, but into so many other things yes. which can then promote at a faster rate economic development, the IT, the Networked Readiness Index, taking us in the next 5 years
you will see these rankings improve significantly.
To at least number 10. So you're going to go home now, go to school, and work on that. Thank you very much. Thanks, panelists, for that. Have a good morning.